Good morning, dear students. Our next session starts with the isolation of lanthanides. See here, these lanthanides, they are present in the monocyte sand, isn't it? From the monocyte sand, we can isolate this lanthanides, and also 78% of the total lanthanides it is obtained from this monocyte sand. Okay. And again, this lanthanides they are present in monocyte sand in the form of phosphates. They are present in the form of phosphates. Usually these lighter elements or trivalent elements, that is trivalent ions in the form of 3+, the oxidation with oxidation state 3+, they will be existing in the form of phosphates. Then first of all, this is a very tedious process, and also the process, the isolation, it will be like this. The separation of lanthanides, it will be like this. The first step, that is from the monocyte sand, we are having this lanthanides in the monocyte sand. So the first step is this monocyte sand is treated with hot concentrated sulfuric acid. In your textbook, it is there, a flow chart is there. It is treated with hot concentrated sulfuric acid. Treated with hot concentrated sulfuric acid. So the temperature here, it is about 200 degrees Celsius. So here, while treating with concentrated sulfuric acid, it will be converting to the phosphate form. Okay, so here the phosphates present in this monocyte sand, it will be converted to sulfates. It is converted to sulfates while treating with sulfuric acid, so that we will be obtaining this lanthanide elements as a paste of the sulfates. That means it consists of a paste of silica. Silica, the formula is SiO2. Okay, it consists of a paste of silica, then zircon. Zircon, the formula is ZrSiO4. Okay, silicon, then other sulfates of lanthanides. It consists of silica, then zircon, and other sulfates of lanthanides. Okay, I am writing it as Ln3+. Okay. And also along with that, thorium will be present, and also some phosphoric acid will be there. Phosphoric acid will be there. Okay. So this is the first step, treating with concentrated sulfuric acid at 200 degrees Celsius. So the phosphates will be converted to sulfates. Then in the next step, it is treated with cold water. Okay. It is treated with cold water. So on treating with cold water, what happens? The sulfates will be passing into solution. So we will be having two categories. One residue we will be having, and one solution we will be obtaining. And also this residue, it consists of, this residue part, it consists of silica as well as zircon. Silica, that is SiO2, and then zircon. Zircon, the formula is ZrSiO4. Okay, the residue part, it will be having silica and zircon that we can separate. That means it remains undissolved. You know the form of precipitates, isn't it? So here also it will be remaining as solid, and we can separate this part. Silica and zircon we can separate. Then the next part, in the solution, we will be having the sulfates of remaining lanthanides. Sulfates of remaining lanthanides. Okay, sulfates of remaining lanthanides plus thorium plus phosphoric acid. This will remains in the solution. So from the solution, we have to isolate the other lanthanides also. Okay. So this, while treating with cold water, we will be having a residue and a solution. The residue will be having silica as well as zircon, and in the solution we will be having sulfates of lanthanides, then thorium and phosphoric acid. Then in the next step, we have to isolate this thorium. Okay, so for isolating this thorium, we have to dilute this solution, or we have to add water to the solution. And again it is then diluted, and then it is the pH range, it is adjusted to alkaline medium. Okay, the pH range is adjusted to an alkaline range. So what happens is that the sulfates pass into solution. It will be remaining in the solution, and also while adjusting this pH, what happens is that we will be having again two categories. That means one residue and one solution. Okay, this residue, we will be having the phosphate of thorium. Okay, In the residue, we have phosphate of thorium, so that thorium is isolated. Okay. And again, in the next step, see here that here we will be having a solution, isn't it? Residue and the solution part. And in the solution, it will be having the sulfates of lanthanides. Solution, it will be having the remaining lanthanides in the form of sulfate. Okay. Then in the next step, we have to this solution, we are adding sodium sulfate, Na2SO4, to the solution, adding sodium sulfate, so that again we will be having two categories. That is, one of them will be converted to double sulfates, that is again residue, and again here we will be having solution. Okay, in the residue we will be having double sulfates, and this double sulfates of lighter lanthanides will be there. Double sulfates of lighter lanthanides will be there present in the residue, that is from lanthanum to samarium, that is the starting elements. Okay, from lanthanum to samarium, that is lanthanum, cerium, promethium, praseodymium, neodymium, promethium and samarium. These elements will be obtained as in the residue part. Okay, and also in the solution part we will be having the heavier lanthanides. Heavier lanthanides will remain in solution, Ln3+. Okay, heavier lanthanides will remain in the solution, that is starting from gadolinium to lutetium. The remaining lanthanides will be there in the solution. Again, this lighter lanthanides, again it is treated with NaOH. Lighter lanthanides, when treated with NaOH, it will be converting to oxides as well as hydroxides. Converting to oxides and hydroxides. Then this oxides and hydroxides then washed and dried at 100 degrees Celsius. Washed and dried at 100 degrees Celsius. Then we can separate by these lighter lanthanides by certain different methods. Okay. So here at this stage, what happens when washed and dried at 100 degrees Celsius, cerium will be oxidized to CeO2. Okay. So this is the process of separation of lanthanides. So here we are separating this lighter lanthanides as well as the heavier lanthanides. Then again we have to follow some other procedure for separating these two categories, that is lighter as well as heavier lanthanides. So this is the flow chart of this separation of or isolation of lanthanides. So in your textbook it is given very clearly the flow chart. So you have to study the flow chart, then you can write the procedure itself for a 4-mark question. Okay, I will tell you once again. This monocyte sand, first it is treated with concentrated sulfuric acid at 200 degrees Celsius. So in the monocyte, these lanthanides will be presented in the form, will be there in the form of phosphates. So here treating with concentrated sulfuric acid, we will be having the sulfates. Phosphates are converted to sulfates along with some phosphoric acid. Then you have to dilute or treat it with cold water. Then we will be having two categories, the residue as well as the solution. In the residue we will be having silica and zircon that we can separate out. That means it will be in the solid form. Then in the solution, the remaining lanthanides and thorium in the form of sulfates. Then you have to separate this thorium. For separating this thorium, we have to adjust the pH. That means the pH will be adjusted to the alkaline range, so that this thorium will be left as residue in the form of phosphate. Then again in the solution, this sulfates of lanthanum will be there, and again it is treated with sodium sulfate. So hope you are clear. Sodium sulfate, then while treating with sodium sulfate, again we will be having two parts, that is the residue as well as the solution. That is the lighter lanthanides will be precipitated as their double sulfates. That is starting from lanthanum to samarium, we will be having the lighter lanthanides and they will be precipitating there. And the remaining lanthanides, that is the heavier lanthanides, it will be there in the solution. Then you have to do some more steps to separate each and every element from this solution. Okay. And again this lighter lanthanides, it is then treated with NaOH and is converted to, so while treating with NaOH, it is converted to oxides as well as their hydroxides. Then it is washed and dried at 100 degrees Celsius. So while drying to 100 degrees, cerium, it is oxidized to CeO2. So this much is there regarding the isolation of lanthanides. Okay, so you are getting a residue of the lighter lanthanides as well as a solution of a heavier lanthanides. Then you have to continue with the separation of lanthanides. That means lanthanides can be separated by so many different techniques, and those techniques you have to study. So this isolation of lanthanides, it is very important. Usually it is an asked question. From lanthanide part, the important questions are, the first one is lanthanide contraction, then the isolation of lanthanides, then the separation of lanthanides. These are very, very important. Then the next is separation of lanthanides. Separation of lanthanides. So the first step for separation, that is the fractional crystallization. Fractional crystallization. So here this fractional crystallization, the principle based on this, the principle which is following in this fractional crystallization, it is the solubility. We have to consider the solubility of the salts. That means the solubility decreases from lanthanum to lutetium, isn't it? Solubility decreases from lanthanum to lutetium. So based on this difference in the solubility, this fractional crystallization technique is adopted. That means the salts of lutetium, that means it will be coming at the end of the series, isn't it? At the end of the series, this lutetium ion, and also their size is also very low, isn't it? So what happens is that the salt of lutetium will be crystallizing out first. So lutetium salt will crystallize out first. Then in the case of simple salts also, the simple salts and double salts are also this method, this fractional crystallization technique is adopted. Then the second one, that is the complex formation. Complex formation. See here in the case of this lanthanides, usually it can form complexes. Normally we are using EDTA. What is EDTA? It is ethylene diamine tetraacetic acid, EDTA. So usually when treated with EDTA, this forms complexes. Lanthanides, when treated with EDTA, it forms complexes. Okay. EDTA means ethylene diamine tetraacetic acid. So what happens is that at the end of the series, lutetium is coming, isn't it? Lu will be coming, and also the ion, it is the smallest ion. Lutetium 3+, it is the smallest ion. And so since it is the smallest ion, what about the complex formed? Is it a stronger complex or a weaker complex? It is the smallest ion, isn't it? That means it can form a strongest complex. Okay. This lutetium can form the strongest complex, and also so that is one point. Then again, this usually they can be converted into the oxalate forms. These lanthanides, they can be in the oxalate forms, and also these oxalates, as you know, they are normally insoluble in water, isn't it? Oxalates are insoluble. And also while complexing with EDTA, these oxalate ions does not give a precipitate. Okay. And again, when acid is added to this solution, the least stable complexes will be coming first, or will be dissociated first. That means cerium 3+, then praseodymium 3+, then neodymium 3+, Nd 3+. These complexes, they will be forming complexes, and they comes out first. Okay, means they are precipitated as their oxalates. They are precipitated as their oxalates first. Okay, so that we can separate these complexes, and then they are filtered off, and we can separate these three from the solution. Okay, and this process we have to continue so many times. So here at first, this lanthanum ions, it is complexed with EDTA. So while forming complexes, the smallest ion will forms the strongest complex. Usually they are these oxalates are their lanthanides will be taken in the form of oxalates, and then they are also insoluble in water. So in that case, the cerium, praseodymium, neodymium, etc. will be forming complexes, and they will be first we can precipitate out these complexes first. Okay. Then again, the next method, that is the solvent extraction. solvent extraction. Okay. Here one more point is that these are the least stable complexes, isn't it? Cerium, promethium, neodymium, these are the least complexes, least stable complexes. Then the next one, that is the solvent extraction. So here in solvent extraction we are using the principal partition coefficient. Solvent extraction, partition coefficient of the these lanthanide salts between water as well as the organic solvents. Usually partition coefficients are done in solvents, isn't it? So here partition coefficients of water as well as organic solvents. Here while using this lanthanide salts, these partition coefficients are slightly different. That principle is adopted here. And again this partition coefficient of gadolinium nitrate, GdNO3 thrice gadolinium nitrate in water as well as in N-butyl alcohol. The partition coefficient of gadolinium nitrate in water as well as between water and N-butyl alcohol, it is about 1.06 times greater than that of lanthanum nitrate, LaNO3 thrice in water as well as N-butyl alcohol. Okay. The partition coefficient of gadolinium nitrate in water as well as N-butyl, between water and as well as N-butyl alcohol, it is 1.06 times greater than that of lanthanum nitrate in water as well as N-butyl alcohol. And also here this extraction, it is done with the help of water as well as N-butyl alcohol. That is the solvent extraction, and here the principle used is the partition coefficient. The difference in the partition coefficient between the between water as well as organic solvents. Okay, so that is the point here. Then the next one, that is by precipitation. The fourth one, by precipitation. By precipitation. See, for example, when lanthanum nitrate, LnNO3 thrice, lanthanum nitrate, when treated with sodium hydroxide, and this here, it is here we have got a mixture of this lanthanum nitrate as well as lutetium nitrate. When NaOH is added to this solution, to this mixture of these two, what happens is that this which one is, it is the weakest base, lanthanum or lutetium? Lutetium is the weakest base, isn't it? Lutetium is the weakest base. So weakest base means it has the lowest solubility. Weakest base means it is less soluble or it has the lowest solubility. And again, lowest solubility means which one will be precipitating first? Lutetium will be precipitating first. Precipitated first. So while taking a mixture of lanthanum nitrate and lutetium nitrate in sodium hydroxide, since lutetium nitrate, it is the weakest base, we had already seen. Weakest base, and hence it has got the lowest solubility, so it will be precipitating first. But in the case of lanthanum nitrate, it is a strongest base, isn't it? Just the reverse. Lanthanum nitrate is a strong base. So what happens? It has got high solubility or highest solubility. So what happens? It will be precipitated last. Okay, so when a mixture of lanthanum nitrate and lutetium nitrate treated with NaOH, this is the case. So lutetium nitrate will be precipitating out first and lanthanum nitrate will be precipitating out the last. Okay. So based on this, the lowest solubility substance will be precipitated out first. So here the principle used is the ion which has got the lowest solubility. The ion which has got the lowest solubility will precipitate out first. That is the principle adopted here. Okay, so that is the fourth point, by precipitation. Then fifth one, by the change of oxidation state. By the change of oxidation state. See, by changing the oxidation state, generally we had seen this lanthanum, it is having a +3 oxidation state. Okay. See, for by changing this oxidation state, we can separate these ions very easily. Okay, that means sometimes an ion, it is having a +2 oxidation state, +4 oxidation state, along with that a +3 oxidation state will be there. Then we can separate the ion by changing the oxidation state, that is from +2 we can change it to +4 or like that. Okay, so by changing the oxidation state of ions we can separate it easily. For example, from this lanthanide ion, lanthanum ions, the cerium can be treated with alkaline KMnO4. See, alkaline KMnO4, it is a very good oxidizing agent. Okay, cerium, on treating with alkaline KMnO4, what happens is that this cerium, it is converted to cerium 4+. Its oxidation state changed to cerium 4+. See here in the solution, it may be in the form of cerium 3+. So we are converting it into cerium 4+ by oxidizing using alkaline KMnO4. See, what about the charge? The charge is increased from 3+ to 4+. So what happens while the charge is increased? This what about the size of the ion? Size will be getting smaller, isn't it? Smaller size while going through Ce4+. So size smaller means its basic nature will be less, isn't it? It has got a less basicity. Size smaller, so less basicity. Then less basicity means it has got a less solubility. Less solubility while comparing with that of Ce3+, isn't it? So less basicity and then less solubility. So this what happens, the cerium, it will be precipitating as cerium hydroxide. Ce4+ means it can be CeOH 4 times. Okay. So by just the treating alkaline KMnO4, this 3+, it is oxidized to 4+, and thereby the size is reduced, basicity became less, then solubility again goes less, then we will be obtaining it as cerium hydroxide. Okay. So the cerium hydroxide, it can be precipitated by treating with an alkali, isn't it? So by treating with an alkali, we will be having cerium hydroxide. So by this method, we will be obtaining very high pure solution. Okay, that means it is about this obtained cerium hydroxide, it is about 99% pure. Okay, this is another important point to be noted. Okay, so this is regarding the oxidation state. Similarly, so many ions can be converted, that is europium 2+. Europium 2+, it can be reduced using zinc amalgam. Zinc amalgam, it is a very good reducing agent, isn't it? Europium 3+, it is reduced to europium 2+. Europium 3+ reduced using zinc amalgam, it is reduced to europium 2+. That means it can be in the form of sulfates, that is europium sulfate. And then we can precipitate out this europium sulfate. So this is another method, change of oxidation state. And then the last method, that is by ion exchange method. Sixth one, by ion exchange method. You have heard of ion exchange resins, isn't it? Here also ion exchange resins are used for the separation of lanthanides. Okay, so here this ion exchange resin is used. Ion exchange resin is used for the separation of lanthanides, and also usually this ion exchange resins, it will be having a functional group of either COOH or SO3H. What is the peculiarity of these two groups? It has got an H+, isn't it? An H+ will be removed easily. So this resin, it is packed in a column. See, column means it is just a bigger size than that of a burette. Okay, it is a long column. It will be like this column. It will be very thicker one while comparing with that of burette, but almost the same pattern. Okay, and also this is filled with the ion exchange resins. Okay, this is called as a column, and it is filled with the ion exchange resin. And usually this resin, it has got a COH or an SO3H group. That means an acidic group is filled in as a column. Then the mixture, the lanthanide mixture to be separated, we are adding through this portion. Okay, the solution to be separated, that means the lanthanide solution to be separated, or the mixture to be separated, it is passed over through this solution. And also this solution, it is allowed to run down through the column. So what happens is that this lanthanide ions, see here, if we are taking a COH group resin here, what happens is that this H+ will be replaced by the coming lanthanum ions. Okay, this H+ ions will be removed, and in that position this lanthanum ions will take that position. Okay, so we can write the equation, that is lanthanum 3 plus, it will be reacting with the hydrogen present, H plus ion present in the resin, or the hydrogen ion present in the resin. So, so what happens? We will be having the lanthanide ions, it will be attached to the resin, that is Ln resin thrice will be forming, and the H plus will be removed, and the H plus will be going through here. Okay, and this we can remove the H plus ions, or the ionic solution from the bottom. Okay, then you have to add a buffered solution of citric acid. We have to add a buffered solution of citric acid, buffered solution of citric acid or ammonium citrate. So from the top of the column, we have to add a buffered solution of citric acid or ammonium citrate. So this solution, it is used for elution. The process, it is called as elution. Okay, so for elution, we are using this particular solution, citric acid or ammonium citrate solution. So here, as the citrate solution runs down, what happens is that the lanthanum ions, the Ln3 plus, it will be attaching in the in this column, in this resin, isn't it? So this Ln3 plus ions, it will be forming complexes with the citrate. Okay, it will be forming complexes with the citrate, and then it is eluted from this resin. Okay, so this already here it is present. In the column, lanthanum resin thrice, it will be there, isn't it? In the column, it will be there. So to that, we are adding the citrate solution, 3H, then citrate. It's a citric acid solution, citrate. Then what happens is that we will be having 3 hydrogen, and it will be remaining in the resin, plus lanthanum citrate. That is, a lanthanum citrate complex is a complex will be formed, and it will be coming out through this portion. Okay, so this as citrate complex comes down, what happens? The lanthanum 3 plus also will be coming along with the citrate ion. Okay, and also see the lanthanide ions from lanthanum to lutetium, the ionic size is varying, isn't it? Lutetium, it is having a smaller size. Lutetium, it is having a smaller size, and also since the smaller size ion, it can form stronger complexes, isn't it? The complex formed will be a stronger, that is the lanthanum citrate or the lutetium citrate complex will be a stronger one, isn't it? A stronger complex can be formed. A stronger complex can be formed, isn't it? And again, what happens is that the smaller and the smaller complex and the heavier ion. So which ion will be coming first from this? From this portion, lanthanum citrate or lutetium citrate. Lutetium citrate will be coming out first. Okay, stronger complex means this lutetium citrate complex will comes out first from the column. Okay, then the last come will be the lanthanum citrate complex. Lanthanum citrate complex comes out last. Okay, the smaller and the heavier ions will be eluted first. Okay, smaller and the heavier ions will be eluted first. That means lutetium nitrate complex will be coming out first. Then in the last stage only, this lanthanum citrate complex will be coming out. Okay, so this is the so in this way we can separate similarly. So after lutetium, then comes the next ion citrate complex. So in this way we can separate all the ions from this resin. Okay, so this is the ion exchange resin. So in ion exchange resin, we are using an COH group or an SO3H group resin. Then it is lanthanide solution. It is passed over the resin. So it will be forming a complex. Then we are adding buffered solution of citric acid or ammonium citrate as an eluting agent. So then this lanthanum resin, it will be combining with the citrate to form a complex, that is the lanthanum citrate complex. So starting from lanthanum to lutetium, the ionic size decreases. Lutetium is the smallest ion, and hence it forms a stronger complex, and then it will be eluted first. It is eluted. Okay, the process in this citrate is lutetium citrate is eluted first, and lanthanum citrate is eluted last. Okay, then the next is this production of lanthanide metals. Some of the another title you have to study is the production of lanthanide metals, that is the different methods for the production of lanthanide metals. I think you can read from the textbook. I'll go through this also. See, lanthanide metals. See here. The first one, that is the following methods are used for the production of lanthanides. First one, electrolysis of used chlorides. Second one, electrolysis of CeO2 infused CeF2. That is cerium oxide is electrolysis CeO2. It is electrolyzed. This is used for producing cerium. Okay. Cerium oxide in the presence of CeF2, cerium fluoride. Then the third one, reduction of anhydrous chlorides with sodium. The reduction occurs at a temperature above 1000 degree. This is used for producing lanthanum, then cerium and gadolinium. Okay, at a temperature above 1000 degree, we are reducing. Okay, then reduction of anhydrous fluorides with magnesium. Here we are using a temperature of 1000 degree. This is also used in the production of heavier lanthanides. Okay. So these are the different methods of production of lanthanide metals that you have to read all these. Sometimes may be asked in any part, 2 marks or 4 marks. Okay. Then the next is the application of lanthanides and their compounds. See here, lanthanides and their compounds, some of the uses are there. That is cerium magnesium alloys. It is used in the manufacture of flashlight powders. Then lanthanide salts, it is used in lasers. Neodymium oxide, it is dissolved in selenium oxychloride, used as a powerful liquid laser. Okay. Then oxides of cerium used in gas mantles. Then cerium, it is absorbing heat and UV light, and as a result cerium glass, it is used in glare reducing spectacles. So cerium, it is used in glare reducing spectacles. This uses or applications, it is very important. Then compounds of lanthanides are good catalysts for many reactions like hydrogenation, dehydrogenation, oxidation, cracking of petroleum, etc. Then the last one, lanthanides, it is a well-known alloy. It is misch metal. Okay, misch metal means it consists of 30 to 50% of cerium, 5% of iron, then traces of sulfur, carbon and aluminium. It is an excellent scavenger for oxygen and sulfur. Magnesium alloys containing 3% misch metal have high strength and are used in making jet engines. Alloys having the composition cerium 40.5%, lanthanum and neodymium together 44%, iron 4%, aluminium 0.5%, and the remainder of calcium, silicon and carbon are called as pyrophoric alloys. They are used in the preparation of ignition devices, example tracer bullets. So these are some of the uses. You have to go through all these uses, just read all these things. Okay. So this is regarding the application of lanthanides. Uses, it may be asked sometimes, so please go through it. And the next series, that is the actinide series, that we can see in our next session. Thank you.